Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at a brand new company in a way that we've never looked at here before, because this figure right here is apparently from Blip Toys. I've actually never heard of them, but it's also been released, I think, under the Animal Planet name, because I was recently walking through Target and I happened to walk by the Animal Planet section and spotted the fact that they had some figures like this up on the very top shelf of where the Animal Planet figures normally are. There was only one dinosaur. It's this one here, which I would imagine is probably a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It actually does not have a name on it at all, but considering it's just this very T-Rex looking dinosaur, I'm gonna say it's probably a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And there were a few animal figures, not very many, but enough that it caught my attention right away. I'm a sucker for pretty much anything dinosaur related, and as we can see, this T-Rex here is definitely not an accurate version of a Tyrannosaurus in any way, shape, or form, but I thought he looked pretty cool, and I was excited in general to have a dinosaur figure like this from a company that I've never heard of before. So let's go ahead and get a closer look at this figure right now. So taking a look up here at the head sculpt, you can see the head sculpt is pretty nice looking as far as the skin texture goes. There isn't too much going on, but what is included does look fairly nicely done. And you can also see the ears sculpted out back there, as well as the nostril up here. You can also see that the eye is painted with a blackish coloration, and then there is a white dot there to insinuate, I'm not sure if that's the pupil or eye shine. Regardless, it does have a nice little white dot there in the eye area, and both eyes on both sides actually appear to be painted quite nicely. This T-Rex is almost like that vintage style of a Tyrannosaurus Rex as far as the head sculpt goes. I feel like the only thing missing is the tail on the ground, and unfortunately he doesn't have that going on, which not many people would say unfortunately. He's not in a tripod position, but with the overall kind of vintage look to the figure, I feel like the tripod position could have been a very cool look for this guy, but at the same time you have to give them at least some kudos for having a little bit more of an updated sculpt as far as the tail being off the ground. I actually quite like the inside of the mouth. You can see there's a nice little gloss coat in there, kind of like a pinkish coloration, and the teeth are all painted really nicely, shockingly, because the mouth doesn't open or anything, and the mouth is just kind of stuck in this position. You can see that you can't go inside the mouth at all. It's just one solid piece. But they did apply a nice little gloss coat there, a nice realistic coloration on the inside of the mouth, and the teeth, again, being painted as well as they are, is definitely a very nice look for the figure. You can see that primarily the body is like this brownish coloration, so it's kind of a boring paint scheme, I guess you could say, but at the same time potentially a realistic one, because this coloration would certainly hide a Tyrannosaurus Rex in the forest before it would ambush some prey, so it's a fairly realistic coloration as well. But you can also see, aside from that nice brown, you've got darker browns in certain areas, like a burnt umber brown, so it does have some fairly nice skin tone, some fairly nice coloration to it as far as different variations of color included. Moving down into the neck, you can see a ton of skin wrinkling going on, not just in the neck but in the throat region as well. There is just a lot of skin wrinkling going on, and you can also see that over here on this side. I feel like this side is a little unnecessary, because the Rex having its head turned to the right should be stretching the skin more so than bunching it up, but it does still appear to have the skin quite massively bunched up here on this side. Almost looks like he's wearing a scarf or something. So I feel like this is a little bit of a downside, but it looks nice over here. As you move down into the body, you can see some nice scaling. I think the scale work is actually quite nicely done. You can also see a little bit of a brown stripe that runs down along the side of the dinosaur. You come down here into the arms of the Rex. You can see that the detail is a little muted in the arm and hand area, but the nails are painted with a nice blackish coloration and kind of appear to have a little bit of a gloss coat to them. There's just not really too much detail even on the underside of the hands. You don't see too much going on as far as actual detailing or skin texture, and the arms are clearly too long, but we can also just go ahead and say that the entire figure is inaccurate, so we don't really have to discuss the inaccuracies of the figure. You can see a little bit of skin movement right there as far as the skin bunching up with this leg pushing into the body. You can take note to the spinal column that runs along the top of the animal. You can make out the hip bone a little bit there. As you come down into the legs, I will say the legs are definitely scrawny. They're a little bit too thin in comparison to what they should be as far as kind of displaying musculature, because a Tyrannosaurus is a very large animal. It's going to need very large muscles to support its weight, and you don't see that here in this version of this Tyrannosaurus at all. So again, a little bit of a downside for sure. I really actually think that this, specifically the thigh, is extremely scrawny. The foot sculpt looks okay. You've got some nicely painted nails there. You do have a dew claw here, not exactly perfectly placed, but it's there at least, and it's unfortunately not painted, so that's another little bit of a downside. And then you come out here to the tail. You can see some more really nice scale work as you run out the length of the tail. A very sharp curve to the tail as well. Not so much of a realistic curve, I would imagine. It's a little too bent to be kind of realistic for what you would see on a T-Rex. Again, on this side, the detail doesn't look too much different from what you saw on the other side. Again, some nice skin texture for the most part, some really nice scaling. You can see a little bit of skin movement here. Once again, kind of the skin pulling off the body as this leg is pulling the skin back a little bit. Once again, the legs look scrawny, but I think the thigh looks a little thicker on this side, a little tiny bit more muscular, definitely some more muscular calves on this side as opposed to the previous side. It definitely looks a little better over here. And then you come down to the foot sculpt. The foot sculpt looks pretty good once again, pretty much like we saw on the previous side. And then we come back out here to the tail, and the tail does that nice little curve once again. You can see that brown stripe runs down along the dinosaur, again giving it some color variation. And the underside sports a nice white coloration through the entire underside of the dinosaur, with some decent sculpt as far as the skin texture and everything goes down there. So not really that great of a figure, but I actually quite like him. As far as the size goes, the figure's pretty darn small, so for a length from the tail to the head, you're looking at around the 6-inch range, or about 15 centimeters. And for a height, you're going to see this guy come in at about 3 3/4 inches, somewhere around that range, or around 9.5 to 10 centimeters, kind of right in the middle there for a size comparison. There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, Robert Muldoon in the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, showing you that this Rex is right around the Attack Pack size range, actually maybe even a little smaller, so it's not a very large figure for sure. But at the same time, being kind of an ugly figure, it's at least nothing that's going to take up too much room in your collection, and I think he's a pretty fun size. So this Blip Toys Animal Planet Tyrannosaurus is a pretty cool figure, pretty fun, but in no way, shape, or form is it an accurate figure, and in fact, most people probably won't like him. If you're into scientific accuracy, you're definitely gonna want to skip this figure. But if you're just like me and you pretty much like anything dinosaur, you might like him. I personally do. He's definitely an ugly figure, but he's got some decent sculpt work included, and maybe I'm just excited to see a figure like this from a new line, something I haven't seen in quite a while, of a line like this showing up in stores with a dinosaur that's similar to like a Safari LTD or a Collect A as far as the way that it's made, the material that it's made, and the way that it is presented in store. I really feel like it's kind of a breath of fresh air to have something new, even if it is an extremely inaccurate dinosaur like this. The scale work and the detailing of the skin all over the figure is quite nice. I do like that, and I definitely like the coloration, and the actual paint application is done really well, aside from the missing paint on the dew claws. But overall, I feel like the figure isn't really sloppy in any way as far as the paint work goes, so that is definitely nice to see. But it does come with many downsides, like the complete inaccuracy of the figure. The arms are too long, the legs are way too scrawny and thin. They don't exactly have any type of musculature aside from the left leg having some decent calf muscles to them, along with the skin wrinkling in the neck on the side that should be stretched, kind of looking more like a scarf than anything, is definitely another downside. So this figure's not that great, and it's probably not going to be something that a lot of people like, but again, I personally do like it, and I'm actually quite happy that I picked it up. One thing that is really cool about the figure, for sure, is the fact that it's only $3.99 right now at Target, so that is a pretty good price for a figure like this. So I had absolutely no problem spending $4 to pick up this kind of cool T-Rex figure. I think one of the things that I actually like about the figure is it's sort of, in a very, very slight kind of a way, resembles the Last Dinosaur, Tyrannosaurus Rex. If you've ever seen that horrible film from the 70s, I absolutely love it. I think it was made in the 70s anyway, but I absolutely love the movie, and I think that the head sculpt of this kind of resembles that, or it's just sort of giving me the feeling of that dinosaur, and since I have such a huge soft spot for that film, that may be why I like the figure a little bit, because otherwise it's a pretty hideous figure, and I don't think too many people, aside from maybe fans of that film, will really be into this, or if you're a fan of maybe like older Schleich Replicasaurus figures, because he sort of has a similar look to what you would have seen on those figures, so he sort of has like that old school charm to him. So if you do want to buy one for yourself, make sure you head to your local Target, because if mine had it, yours should, because mine never has anything. So the fact that it was there means there's a pretty good chance that yours should have it as well. Make sure you head to the Animal Planet section, because that's where I located this guy. Good luck and happy hunting finding one if you are in fact interested, but otherwise make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.